All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. Russia is currently witnessing one of its largest protests in years. Hundreds and thousands of Russians took to the streets last weekend protesting against the arrest of Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny. The Navalny supporters have now promised to continue with their agitation over the course of the next weekend as well. The Navalny was detained in Moscow on the 17th of January. The Kremlin critic was returning from Germany. He had just landed in the Moscow airport at the time when he was immediately arrested. Remember, he was in Germany recovering from the poison attack where he'd been poisoned with a Soviet-era nerve agent Novichok. Navalny's arrest has met with outrage and chaos, a kind of public defiance which Kremlin has not witnessed in many years. On Tuesday, Alexei Navalny's supporters called for new anti-government rallies in Moscow over the weekend. The rallies will be held outside the FSB security agency and also Vladimir Putin's presidential administration. Alexei Navalny's supporters have said that they intend to keep up the fight for the jailed critic and also will continue with his battle to bring about change in this year's parliamentary elections.
Несмотря на незаконный арест Навального, содержание его в СИЗО, несмотря на аресты наших сторонников, соратников, возбужденные уголовные дела, скорее всего, предстоящие новые уголовные дела и обыски, изъятие, аресты денежных счетов и так далее, наша команда в любом случае продолжит свою работу, и мы в том числе будем усиленнее, еще более усиленно работать над тем, чтобы победить монополию «Единой России» на выборах в парламент нашей страны.
Now, Alexei Navalny's arrest has drawn international criticism against Russia. On Tuesday, the United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab also issued a statement on behalf of the G7 nations. Now, Dominic Raab's tweets said that Alexei Navalny's arrest is politically motivated and those who peacefully protested have in fact been arbitrarily detained. The foreign ministers of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom and the United States have condemned these detentions and have called on Russia to immediately release those concerned. The United States has slammed Kremlin's crackdown on its opposition leaders, President Joe Biden, and his first phone call with the Russian leader Vladimir Putin on Tuesday, where Biden reportedly, according to reports in the American media, discussed a whole host of issues, including the arrest of Alexei Navalny.
And also to raise matters of concern, including the SolarWinds hack, reports of Russia placing bounties on United States soldiers in Afghanistan, interference in the 2020 election, the poisoning of Alexei Navalny, and treatment of peaceful protesters by Russian security forces.
Now, it is not just international criticism. Kremlin is also facing flack from home. Human rights and democracy activist Garry Kasparov has spoken out against Putin administration. Posting a series of tweets, Kasparov made some startling claims. He said that as Putin's dictatorship announces that they will imprison Alexei Navalny for years for the crime of failing to die when they tried to assassinate him, he posts to make clear that he's not intending to kill himself in jail and walks carefully and has no heart troubles. The former Russian chess master pointed out a pattern. He said, and I quote him, "Aside from being openly murdered, Kremlin critics have a long history of defenestration, sudden heart problems and blunt force suicide, not to mention the arbitrary crimes that we are accused of, from extremism to embezzlement to drug and weapon possession and murder." It does not stop there. To counter all claims, Russia has blamed the United States for the flagrant interference in Moscow's internal matters. The allegations come after the U.S. Embassy in Moscow put a warning on its website detailing the times and places of opposition rallies in different Russian cities, urging U.S. citizens to avoid them.
Расцениваем эти действия американской стороны как грубое вмешательство во внутренние дела нашей страны. Ввели так называемые интернет-гиганты, компании, которые обеспечивают платформы для социальных сетей, и непосредственно социальные сети, которые принадлежат американской стороне.
All right, now to get us more updates in terms of what is actually unfolding in Russia at this point of time, we're joined in by Stuart Smith, who's joining us live from Moscow. Stuart, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast on WION. And let me begin by asking you this. Alexei Navalny has been arrested by the Russian authorities, but that has not stopped his protesters from stating that they will go ahead and stage more protests over the coming weekend. How are the Russian authorities responding to this?
Well, it's another illegal protest, another one not allowed by authorities due to legislation around COVID precautions, as well as the usual laws against organising mass rallies without due notice. However, organisers say this is important enough to go ahead anyway and take part in this rally, which is being repressed due to political reasons, more so than the other reasons I listed. They're starting at the FSB headquarters. The FSB, the Internal Security Service, which supporters of Alexei Navalny accused the agents of poisoning Alexei Navalny last year. Then they'll be moving down towards Putin's offices, they say, because it's only President Putin who has the authority to decide whether Alexei Navalny is freed when he goes on trial at the beginning of February, or whether he is released from jail. Either option could cause problems for the Kremlin. If he's released, he could be free to spark and incite further discontent in Russia. If he's jailed, that could also spark more protests. So a difficult situation for the Kremlin to balance, especially considering the outcry after what happened at last weekend's protest, with a lot of violence between protesters and police, and a particular video of an elderly lady being kicked in the stomach by police after she walked in front of two officers who were arresting a gentleman. That's caused a lot of outcry here in Russia. Many people saying it's not fair that she was kicked down so brutally for merely getting in the way. She ended up in hospital after that incident. The police force did apologise. However, it has ignited a sense of passion which maybe was not expected before these protests. Another thing contributing to the discontent, as well as the poisoning of Alexei Navalny, the economic situation, people are now citing a video which was published by the Alexei Navalny campaign, which has gathered over 90 million views on YouTube, which accuses President Putin of using state funds to build a personal palace for himself on the coast of Russia. So a lot of reasons for people to come out this weekend if they do ignore the warnings of authorities.
Absolutely indeed. And one other thing that is being looked at very closely is the parliamentary elections that is slated to be held in the month of September later this year. The question that I want to ask you is, what happens with Alexei Navalny? Will he be allowed to actually contest in these elections? And are these elections being looked at as to how popular Alexei Navalny actually is in staging a challenge to President Vladimir Putin?
Alexei Navalny's power doesn't actually come from his ability to run for office, because he's banned from running for political office in Russia due to previous charges. So what he has to do instead is look for ways to destabilize the Russia First party. That's President Putin's party. And so what his plan is to try and encourage the opposition party most likely to win in each of Russia's 85 regions. So whether that be the communists or the libertarians, it's using their power in that region and combining all the opposition support in one vote. That's the plan. It's called smart voting here in Russia, and what he's good at is encouraging parties to cooperate to arrange one opposition candidate that everyone gets behind to try and unseat President Putin's party. So he himself, his political party, is not registered. He's not allowed to run for office. But the danger for the State Duma elections, the parliamentary elections in September, for the Kremlin, is that he manages to get opposition support focused in a very particular and very clever way.
Absolutely. Now, for people who are watching the incidents unfold in Russia, we've seen Vladimir Putin win election after election with a landslide majority. How are these protests affecting his popularity?
No polls yet on how these particular protests of last weekend are affecting his popularity, but state media has been forced to come out in his defence, both over the palace incident, the accusations that he's using state funds to build a palace, and also accusations that he's scared of Alexei Navalny. So it's the first time President Putin has really felt pressured to respond in this way. He would normally disregard the allegations, not comment on them, not try and challenge the accusations directly. It is unusual that now he feels compelled to at least address these challenges. For Alexei Navalny's team, it will be a case of trying to bring out supporters who don't normally interact with either politics or with opposition campaigns. Many people still get their news simply from state newspapers or state-run television. For Alexei Navalny, his power and his reach is mostly on the internet and amongst younger people who have access to the internet. His problem will be trying to encourage the normally politically uninterested people from actually getting concerned and frustrated and annoyed by what he's calling political corruption in Russia.
Absolutely indeed. And also Garry Kasparov has been putting out a series of tweets, and there is one very interesting tweet which Kasparov put out, and I would like to ask you on it, where Garry Kasparov said that even people who haven't protested in years are being visited by police at their homes and are forced to sign a document saying that they will not protest on the 23rd. He was referring to the protest that took place over the weekend. Is this the scale of repression which Putin's administration is carrying out on people who intend to protest against him?
Yes, there have been pre-protest arrests. Normally these are instigated by the police for accusations that the person is inciting people to go out. Inciting someone to go out to a protest could simply be retweeting a tweet encouraging people to come out, or just saying, "I'll be there, will you be there too?" So there are pre-protest detentions going on. We saw the same last weekend, and there are hundreds of people being charged for being present at the rally last weekend. Many attempts by the Kremlin to make sure we don't see a repeat of what happened a week ago.
Absolutely indeed. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us all those updates. This of course is a very big story that we will continue to thank. Thank you very much indeed, Stuart Smith, for joining us from Moscow. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.